Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Couch Live. I'm the Street Certified Dope Doctor Louis Delgado here with you, along with my co-host Picolia. Hello, Pico.
Picolia, JoJo. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back.
That's right. At Limitless and Authentic is she, and I'm at the Dope Doctor. And here we are on WOKB 1680 AM in the Central Florida area, or 100.7 FM if you're more of an FM person. And of course, if you're watching on Facebook Live or something like that, I don't know, YouTube Live, I don't know, listening to it on a podcast later on, all that's fine as well. But that's where we're at here. Anyway, how you doing, Jojo?
I'm doing great. How
Yeah,
are you?
I've had a fantastic week. I was up in the Northeast. I was up in the Philadelphia area again.
We travel all.
Real quick, I was actually in Maryland. Is really where I was, Maryland. But I didn't want to fly into Baltimore because I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler fan, and I try to stay away from Baltimore so I don't get killed. Uh, so I flew into Philly and then went. But anyway,
You're
yeah,
always traveling.
a little bit of travel, a little bit of traveling. But anyway, I've been thinking about this show for since our last show because you said something at the end of it that made me come up with the topic of the day, and I want to talk about generational trauma today. Okay, and it's because we were talking about. I'm a girl dad, you're a boy mom,
Yeah.
and I was trying to give a point about I think women have it much rougher than any color because in every race, in every culture, in every religion, the women seem to be at the bottom. And you said it's harder to be a mom of a black son. So although I think it's real easy that we could just do a show on pain, right? And just talk about pain, just talk about how, we're angry and hurt and all that stuff. It is a couch live and it is about healing. And so I wanted to focus on the healing part of that because number one, I hate that you feel that, to be honest with you. I really hate that you feel that. But I think that we all suffer some sort of trauma from the generations before us. I don't think that's just specific to me being Latino. I don't think it's specific to you being a black woman. For those people that can't see us, that's what we are. But I think we need to talk about generational trauma. So first, let me define it. First of all, you like the topic? Is that something that is okay with you that we talk about today?
What I wasn't ready for. You
Well,
really.
no, I never give. Kind of. I don't do that.
I
But
got okay. Let's do it.
all right. So generational trauma, first of all, is the emotional and psychological pain that's passed down from one generation to the next, right? And that could be abuse, that could be racism, that could be poverty, that could be war, that could be addiction. Those are all examples of things that can be very traumatic to somebody. And unfortunately, the generation after will sometimes carry that baggage, even though they didn't pack the luggage themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's definitely what I wanted to talk about
So
with that.
that's like my saying.
Mm-hmm.
Some cards are dealt, and some we deal ourselves. It's our
Mm-hmm.
hand to play, so we play to win.
Amen. It's exactly what I'm talking about. We can heal regardless of whether it's our game. It's our
Right.
game now, and we have to own it, right?
Yes, yes, true
Or
that.
or we could just stay angry. I mean, that's an option, right? We could just and not even know what we're angry about. By the way, not even know why our behaviors or our attitudes are a certain way, but it plays into the next generation.
It
And it,
does. Some
mhm,
things we do know, and then some things we
right,
don't. I
right,
agree with that.
right. So let's start with some of this. All right. So how do you think the community you're born in kind of the community's trauma? Let's call it the community's trauma. How does the community's trauma affect you?
Hmm. Well, I could just give an example. So,
Okay.
when I want to say 13-ish, my mom moved us from Gainesville, Florida, to
Hmm.
Mims in Titusville, Florida, which
Hmm.
was a completely cultural change for us. And so Titusville, shout out to Titusville, I love
Yeah. Yeah.
who I grew up around. However, we call that an eight ball.
Okay.
The reason is because it's like a generational curse or something.
Mm.
Like when you go back there, it's the same old thing, and the people are kind of caught in the same web.
Mm.
So, you've experienced so many, which I learned that this is a bigger number than I can even quote. The statistics on how many individuals actually leave their city or leave just to go out of town is enormous, right? And so you have a culture of people who are like stuck in the community, and they all look the same. When every time I come back, they're on the same block doing the same thing, and I'm just like, what in the world? Like I'm almost like in a bubble where the years have not gone by. And so for me, it was very important to move. When I was 18, I mean, I moved so quick out of the 8 ball, and you can see the difference in the generational trauma of a community versus not being. That's the best way I can describe. I see, I'm visual, so that's the example that I tap into when I think about the community, and it's so sad.
I like that. There's definitely something to be said about when anyone goes home. Like if you left your home and you go back to it, there's certain individuals that didn't leave. So some things appear very much the same. And when you said that, it made me think about, like, there's certain people that may hang outside of a certain store or whatever. Some of them are still there.
I know.
And it's just odd, right? I remember when I moved. So first when I moved to LA, there was some people out there that hung out, like, on the, the Venice Beach walk, right? From New not New Smyrna, where I live now, but from oh my God, Santa Monica to Venice, right? And there's certain individuals. And then later on in life, when I took my wife and my kids out there was one individual that we saw that was still there. And I had talked about him. I mean, he was that, impactful in my life, and he was still there.
You're like, there he is, right there.
Yeah. It freaked me out a little bit, to be honest with you. But I am also used to that with, hometown friends that are still back there. And then some of them doing the same exact things. I don't know how, by the way, I still don't know how some of these people are still doing some of the same things that we did and still alive today. But some of them do. So I get it.
You make a good point too. I'm speaking on my own experience. You're speaking on from a completely different experience and time wave. You look at me. But probably when you think from a bigger spectrum, it's probably everybody community at in some type of shape or form. I also want to shout out to the ones who have not been stuck into the cultural trauma, because I know a lot of women and men who actually are like me, who have been able to fight and get away from that vicious cycle. But what about that? When you think about it, like, what community doesn't have?
Well, and I thought, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's one of the reasons we have to talk about this, because I think we all get kind of stuck in our own perspective, coming from our own viewpoint, right? So me being a Latino dude, right? I my whole childhood and my whole understanding of this planet, especially in those first 20 something years before I kind of, met Dana and became, her husband, was all from that viewpoint. Right. Being a first generation Latino, parents that speak English, but they have heavy accents. All of our food is ethnic, stuff like that. Living in a Latino community, like when I'm in El Paso, we're all like, 80% Mexican, so we're a lot of the same. And so you go out in the world and you experience different stuff. And I always look at it from that perspective. And I'm sure you look at it from the perspective as a Black person, right? So when you experience something, you tend to believe, oh, that's what we're experiencing as Black people. And I tend to experience things and I go, oh, that's what we're experiencing because we're Latinos. But in reality, I mean, everybody's experiencing something. It may not be the same something you experienced or I experienced.
Right.
But it may be something. And when you said that about your neighborhood, it made me think about, those little white neighborhoods with the trailers that we all kind of see, especially here in Florida. Like, I don't remember ever seeing those in other places as much as I see here in Florida, right?
I want to own those.
How many, you want to own the whole place? Is that what you
they good money.
Yeah, I think you can buy one pretty cheap sometimes.
Yeah, okay.
That's a whole other subject. Yeah, good. The realtor in you came out, the business person in you came out. But those little neighborhoods like that, I mean, some of them might have been there for generations. And I would think that their goal as well is to got to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get stuck here,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's always that person. So your neighborhood can create some sort of traumatic feel, like we're losers. We
Mm-hmm.
can't get out. We're not intended to graduate, or we're not intended to go to college, or we're not intended to be successful. People from this neighborhood go to jail. There's neighborhoods like that, right? There's people that unfortunately are carrying that kind of vibe or feeling.
Yeah, and it sucks. You
Yeah,
know,
it does really suck.
because of that statistic, that kind of, that dark cloud that might be
Right,
over the community of brilliant,
right,
smart, talented, gifted, individuals. But there's so much power, I feel, in the universe, in this
right.
tongue, and our words are powerful. I think that plays a big part. When I think about statistics, I think about me. I was a teen mom.
Mm,
And if you would ask everybody, I wasn't going to graduate,
sure.
I wasn't going to high school, by the way, definitely not college. I was going to live in poverty for the rest of my days.
Mm,
And look at me. I did not.
that's
I
right.
mean, you know what I mean? I worked hard, and that is not my story.
Mm,
And so I think, yes, those people who live in the lower income areas, such as trailer parks and projects, have it a little harder because there's been such a shadow and a cloud
mm,
put over you. You're also fighting for that as well, that freedom, that peace,
hmm.
that breakthrough.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna throw a curveball because maybe the rich kids or the suburb kids, their cloud is that they're just not cool enough. They haven't experienced enough. They're not street enough. So they suffer the same thing because I was in suburb type thing. We were Mexican, but we were like suburbs. So we always felt better than, the ones in the barrio. Even though my abuelita was in the barrio, we'd go to the barrio. We hung out in the barrio. Those early years were in the barrio. But that's not where we stayed because my parents both worked really hard. They both had great jobs, government jobs. My dad, ended up being a retired command sergeant major. My mom, Department of Defense in the government. So we lived in suburbs, but those suburbs, you still had the same things. Like, are you Mexican enough? Are you street enough? Are you this enough? So I put myself in bad situations. So the stigma attached to that, or the issue attached to that, is you still got to always maintain some roots. And so in my head, I was forced to me, and I'm not saying that the neighborhood did. I'm just saying what I did in my own head. In my own head, I kind of felt forced to still stay grounded in what some of us say where we came from. And I wanted to maintain some integrity in that. I took a lot of great pride in being able to be within the barrio without the barrio being me. Like me not being barrio, but I'm still able to go there, feel good there, comfortable there, have my friends there. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying because
Yeah.
I was the
Right.
one in the other neighborhood
Yeah.
who loved to go to the hood.
Yeah.
I was that one. One, Titus was so small.
Mm-hmm.
Cross over 2-3 streets
Right.
and you were there. But my mother was so strict. I lived in a completely different area. But like you said, I was able to go into those type of neighborhoods
Right.
and still be cool,
Right.
still be accepted. You touched on something important that I do like, which goes back to what I said, that we have all generational, what did you call them? Neighborhoods, cultural trauma,
Mm-hmm.
neighborhoods. And I mean, I don't come from living in, the like Winter Park and, those great rich areas,
I know where your office is now, though. I know where your office is.
Well, that's another story.
Yep.
But yeah, so I wonder it'd be interesting to know, what that looks like for them. You said not cool enough. What if it's,
Yeah.
I can appreciate the person possibly who felt like they weren't smart enough, or
Yes.
the requirement for them to have a level of success, that clouded them as well.
Right.
So that's
Well, that to me, that's kind of the point of trauma in general, is that you can't define someone else's trauma. We all want to define it as if, but mine is this, and it's like, wait a minute, like let me take let's go off base a little bit. Like, let's go to like gay pride. Like to say gay pride.
okay.
Well, should we just all be proud? I mean, I don't know if I need to be proud of my sexuality because that would sound funny. Like straight pride would sound funny, right? But shouldn't we all just be proud? Like, what's wrong with just being prideful. Like prideful, it sounds like a negative term because it can be, right? And especially in faith terms, right? In spirituality terms. But to be proud of who you are, what you are, I mean,
I think
it's
it's
like,
I think on that one, you know, I I see it as, that culture
mhm.
has been so unaccepted for so many
Right.
years, had to
Right.
hide behind, so much.
Mhm.
But I think that is why the pride sticks and melts together properly. Yes, I do think we all need to be proud,
Right.
you know. However, that specific word is so special,
Mm.
to them. It's almost like saying black freedom. We're all free. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
But freedom for a black individual,
Mm.
another level of freedom that
Right.
another culture can understand or accept.
Mhm.
Oh, Black Lives Matter. Let's go with that.
Mm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. You touched on one.
All lives matter.
Right.
Yeah, it does. But let's just be real. There
Mhm.
are more black individuals gunned down. It just is. So that phrase was unique
Mm.
to just the black people at that time. Doesn't mean that we all don't matter. Absolutely.
Mm.
Everybody matters. But I think that I kind of went left, but I think that why the connection with gay pride is so special.
Yeah, I get you. In I don't know if it's necessarily true that more black people are gunned down, at least by officers. I'm not so sure that's true. But
Mhm.
but what I like about only because
I know.
but there's a lot of things to be said about when once a culture grabs onto a word or a statement, it's almost becomes unacceptable for another culture, another type of person to grab to that statement or use it again, right? That appropriation stuff. It's like you're not allowed to do that, right? So
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. Because even though yes, I believe all lives matter, I also don't want to step on what it means to a person when they're saying Black Lives Matter, because by changing it, you're affecting them. But in the healing terms, Picolia,
Okay.
that's where we have to allow these words to be used by others. For instance, when we were talking about gay community, you get to that alphabet, right? The LGBTQ plus and all that stuff, right? So really, we don't need the letters. All you need to say is the non-straight, because every letter is the non-straight letter. So all you have to say is the non-straight, right? But instead, it's the letters added on because every time they added a letter, another group said, "Well, what about us?"
Mhm.
Right? And so yeah. So it's not just gay; it's lesbian and gay. Oh, but what about us? Oh, yeah, bisexuals too. Oh, what about us? Oh, yeah, trans too. So they kept on having to add a letter, right?
I will say, let me tell you something. They don't play the LGBTQ. They are the only culture to come up with a new name, and it's like this is what it is. Like I love it
Do
personally.
you? Do you? I don't think it needs to be that. I want to tell them I love you regardless. But the key is you got to love yourself. Forget everyone else. Just love yourself, and you don't need to be defined by any. You don't need to be put in any kind of hole or any kind of segment. You don't need to call yourself anything other than just your name, whatever that is.
So
Just be, because that's where the healing is.
why do we have to say woman and man and female and male? I'm just gonna be devil's advocate. Why are we just people?
I don't know. I'm not that advanced yet. I'll let you know when I get that advanced. It's like a 17-year-old said, "Why do I got to be 18?" I don't know. I'm not. I know that's not my call. It's above my pay grade.
That's true.
But I guess
I think that's how a common probably emotion behind it.
Well, I think chromosomes are different than preferences. I think that's just different. But that's just me. That's just me. I think that. But I also love calling myself a Latino. But I'm pretty sure there's going to come a day where that's not even relevant. You brought it up on the last show. You said, why should we call ourselves black, white, or whatever? We should just be people. And that's beautiful, but I'm not, I'm not John Lennon. Yeah, let there be peace on earth, but I'm not here. I'm not there. I'm at a place where I have to create peace within myself and accept you for who you are. But I kind of like there being like some label, like, right? It feels good to be part of something as long as my being part of something is not hurting you. And I'm not trying to separate from you. I'm just trying to say there are some differences between you and I, and that's okay.
Right.
I'm not saying better than you. I'm just saying this is how and who I am. And so getting back to the generational stuff, the generational trauma. There's men that generation, because we're talking about, we brought up men and women, who in this last generation, we just saw the use of the word toxic masculinity over and over again. That I think, first of all, just for the record, I hate it. I hate it. I think that's a ridiculous term. I don't like it. I think any therapist that uses it needs to stop, because I think it's totally the wrong direction of healing, right? You don't put the word toxic with masculinity and be like, you want to say someone's being macho or something like that, or being aggressive. Let's get right to what they're really being. Are they being aggressive? Are they being forceful? Are they being abusive? Let's stick to those terms. We don't need to say toxic masculinity, because that's almost like saying there's no such thing as toxic femininity. And that's just people can be toxic. Anybody can be toxic. Right. But just because you're being a man, or what's defined as a man in that masculinity term, that doesn't mean you're being toxic. Right?
Yeah.
And
I agree with that.
Okay. Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is because I think that when you're in a certain neighborhood or culture and you feel controlled by another race or culture or religion or whatever, the next generation tends to be angry or aggressive towards something. So that's part of that generational trauma. You tend to be a little bit less trusting of the other because they told you to be.
I agree.
Right? Like, I'm just picturing like my grandfather, or let's picture your grandfather, they'll whisper, you don't trust that white man. Like mine wouldn't say it, but he'll say something, he'll say something culturally insensitive, my abuelito, not knowing he's being that way, but it's like, gringos, something like that, maybe. Yeah. Because that's what they grew up with. So you grew up hearing that. You get some of that. You have some of that in you.
Okay.
Right? And that's part of that thing. So then now you become a man. Let's say we're going to stick to the man because you're a mother to a son, and you brought that up last show, which kind of inspired me to do this. How do you temper down that anger or that feeling less than? So I have to show out a little bit. I can't allow that to happen to me. No, not me. How do you temper that down so that he can just be healthy? He doesn't have to carry the wounds of his grandfather and his father. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to carry that. How do you do that as a mom?
I mean, I think one is being open and transparent. Okay. At the end of the day, yes, wholeheartedly, you want to raise your child, your son, in a way where they rise above and they realize that we're in different times and there's so much more opportunity, for the black man, as black son, as we were talking about what I brought up last show, but also the realities of just where we still are in a community, in a culture, in our race, is things that we have to, conversations that we have to have to at least increase the chances of our black sons being safe. And so that's certain things like how you respond to if an officer pulls you over. There's extra measures that you do to make sure that you don't appear this way because of the color of your skin. And so you have those conversations in one sentence, but then you also remind them that, hey, the same opportunities, that you see with this race are the same that we have now. And so we also don't use that as an excuse, as a crutch. We might have a little more barriers, but you can get to that success. And so I think that is, if parents are able to do that, black moms, black homes, that helps with the generational trauma of, being a black young man or being any culture, but for me specifically, the black sons.
So what do you say to the parents of other sons that say, well, I think there's other factors there, not necessarily just the blackness. There could be how they're hanging out, the way they're showing out. It could be their tattoos. It could be their hair color. It could be their earrings, their nose rings. It could be their sexual preference, the way that, there's a lot of other factors, right? That could identify. Plus, I mean, let's get real. I think at least in the Latino community, I know more Latinos hurt other Latinos, and I'm sure in the Black community, more Black people hurt other Black people. So that's really the issue here. But also what I've seen is a Latino male, the way when I grew up in the 70s and 80s, you know, we weren't as loved and accepted nationally as we are now. I mean, I think a Black and Latino male now, let's just look at the stereotypes and see if they look problematic to you.
Okay.
So if you think Black man, since you said Black son, would you think that people think he's more athletic than the white kid?
Not necessarily.
Wait. Are you pausing there? You're saying that if I'm at the basketball court and I'm picking from people and I've never met them before, there's a Black kid and white kid, you're saying most people are going to think that the white kid plays better than the Black kid? Is that what you're thinking?
I think they're going to look. People are visual. So if the white young man is 6'4" and the Black boy is 5'10", I'm going for the white man.
Yeah, but you said this is about color, not about. See, you're bringing up those other factors that I just said. Those other factors are real, but you didn't want to say that. You said it's a Black thing. So if it's a Black thing, which culture is believed to be more athletic? Come on, just say it. You know you want to say it. You just.
I can't honestly.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's take a pass. Which culture do you think is a better dancer?
Black culture.
Oh, so that's a positive stereotype.
I mean, that's
okay.
When you say about music and dancing, yes, I can see.
Okay, which are looked up to like quite a bit, right? I mean, like seriously.
Yeah.
Don't you think that the way a person, if you're a good, dancing, that's a big thing.
It is.
Right? Singing, that's a big thing. Athleticism is a big thing. Right? If you're a great athlete, I mean, you're top of the male food chain.
Okay.
If you're a singer, you're top of the food chain.
Okay.
Don't you think?
Oh, but I don't think that was singing. I think it depends on the genre of music.
Maybe. Yeah. I got you. But we know which cultures tend to sing in churches a lot more than others. I mean, there's a history there. I mean, and I'm keeping Latinos out of it because we're good at everything. We're better than both y'all. We're the perfect mix of both of y'all. So I'm just gonna keep us out of it. No. I'm just making a white Black thing, but Latinos, we're great at all that. But okay, we're just sticking to the white Black issue for right now.
No, we should stick to all of them. We don't have to anyway because they, statistics say you with us, and if you're Latino, you're Black. So
we're both. We're a perfect mix.
Right. I was gonna say though with the
Wait, I'm not done.
But the genre of music, that's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
This is a good one right now.
All right.
Now you see more white rappers. And unfortunately, I think we're getting a little better with that. But before it was like, hey, y'all don't do hip hop. That's a Black thing.
Yeah, you hated on them.
But then there's also the country music situation too, where Beyonce tried to do country and K. Michelle tried to do country. And it was looked at like, hey, this country music is our thing. That's what that made me think about.
Listen, Pecolia, I'm still upset about the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, winning Best Rap Artist of the Year over people that were out like Run DMC. We had NWA out there, and we had LL Cool J out there, and what I felt was a corny rapper won.
I mean,
the white bread of all the rappers back then. Moms just don't understand. He won.
I agree.
I'm still kind of frustrated about that, to be honest with you. But anyway, let me continue. As far as look, negative stereotype, like you said, it's hard to be a Black man, right? All right, so everybody sees me. If I'm a Black man, everybody sees me as maybe a better dancer. They see me as a better athlete, superior athlete, right? What about physical characteristics?
But why is it that?
No. We're not gonna say it. But I think you can know what I'm talking about. What about? Is that a negative stereotype that I'm not a gifted man?
Yeah, I think that the stereotype is that like you say, the Black culture are used to like our sons and our males being like athletes. It is. However,
yes,
that we're not seen as be more intelligent.
But I'm
Or
not going there yet. I'm not going there yet. I'm not
well,
going there yet. I'm just telling you this. I'm telling you from a kid. Well, because we gotta grow up first. As a kid, you don't care who's more intelligent. You think I cared about the math kid in class? That kid didn't guide me. That chess club champion in our school wasn't who knew that kid? Who knows the spelling bee champion of your high school? Do you know the spelling bee championship of your high school? No, you know the football player, you know the better dancer, you know the person who has the party, you know what I mean? Right? So I'm going to continue because that's where you're really those are the years that create you.
I didn't know we were at childhood. Okay.
But those are the years that create you. There's people right now my age that are still living in high school. That's where they peaked. That's where they stayed. They can't get out of it.
Yeah. So
They're still from a trauma that happened as a kid. They're still suffering from that trauma.
I agree. There's a lot of people like that.
They're still feeling like the last picked kid. They're still struggling with that. So that's why I'm saying those years are so important. But in those years, this is what your black son is experiencing.
Right.
You're a better dancer. You're more athletic. You're more physically gifted. Read between the lines. You know what I'm talking about. Right? There's all the white kids out there have to prove themselves. Black kids don't have to prove that. What I feel bad for is the black kid that's not, because he's like, dang, man, they expected so much and they got so little. You know, those are all positive stereotypes for a young man. Do you not think?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, do you not think?
But also the football player, if we're talking about stigma, is not the one that is smart in the classroom. They're the one who got
in elementary school, nobody cares about how smart you are. In middle school, nobody cares about how smart you are. In high school, nobody cares. You know when people start caring how smart you are? When you go to the professional level. When you go to college and you realize, hey, man, everybody's smart here.
No, because when
you go to law school, medical school, stuff like that. Now you want to compete.
No, high school gets you there.
Oh, no, I agree with you. No, in reality, I get you. In reality, I get you. But when you're at that age level, most kids don't care about that.
That's true. We're talking about kids not caring.
So I'm talking about the trauma. In other words, if you don't give me the stuff that I don't have in my head, how do I get it? If you don't hand off your trauma that you know to be real, they don't think you're smart. They don't think you can achieve. If you don't give me that, I'm not going to have it. All I'm going to have is I'm superior. That every white kid has a poster of a black man on their wall. That's what I'm going to grow up thinking.
No, that's not true. Because
that's not true.
Yeah,
Michael Jordan was on everybody's wall when I grew up.
That's true.
Everybody's wall.
Man, I ain't gonna say true. True, mostly probably.
I mean, cute.
There were also some parents who said you can't put that black man on that wall.
I'm sure there were. But I'm not. That's a dying breed, and that's a small percentage. That percentage of people is dying out.
I got a point for you though.
Okay.
So I hear what you're saying, but like myself, I'll just use myself as an example.
Okay.
I was raised as equal, don't see color, you know, like you can be successful, be an amazing person, you graduate, all of this stuff, right? Not based off of color and trauma, I should say, not passed on in that regard.
Right.
However, you get to school and you get to aftercare programs and stuff, and that's when you experience and realize and see or be treated as differently based off of the color of your skin. I wasn't born, mom was like, look, you know, your skin is black, baby. I need to sit you down and tell you about life.
Right.
No, but when you went to school and you were around certain people, certain different races, that's when you learned, wow, I'm not equal. I remember I was on the playground and I thought I was just, you know, and the little girl says, you're chocolate milk and I'm white milk. And, you know, and I'm looking around, or I'm the only one in the classroom black, and I'm separated from everyone. Mm-hmm. And so that's not something that, you know, was bestowed on us from home. It's the experiences of other people.
Yep. No, I get it, but that's because you were allowed to be in that environment. There's a lot of people with your same trauma though, and they didn't have any white kids in their school. You know, they had like one white kid in their school. Now imagine being that white kid. Like when Howard Stern talks about he was the only white kid at the school. You know what I mean? Like there's always the opposite. Like I always joke that we had that one white friend. You know what I mean? They're like, because we always did. That's why I always like white guys from Boston, because they always fought like us. You know, like if we get in trouble, that white kid from Boston would fight with you, man. He would be down with you and go into that war with you. And I always liked that kid, man. You know, I love white dudes from Boston because they're just cool.
I don't know where that came from, but okay.
It just came from my childhood. See the inner trauma. Like we always had that one friend, right? So, but what I'm saying is that if they grow up without all that other stuff that you're talking about, they grow into feeling very powerful. I mean, I think there's a truth that we need to tell these young black men. The truth is, there's a lot of people jealous of you, brother. There's a lot of people jealous. You know, you walk cooler, you talk cooler, you are cooler in a lot of people's viewpoint. What they consider cool, you define it. You're the definition of what they consider cool. You should own that and just accept it. But you're focused on what you don't have. And in life, that's where problems happen anyway. When we start focusing on what we don't have rather than what we do have, it becomes problematic. So it leads me to the leadership. What is the leadership doing about it? Because your culture is what we consider a maternal culture, is it not? Run by women. Like the woman is very powerful. It's very considered a very maternal culture, is it not? And those women, a lot of those women go to churches. So the church is a very powerful thing in your culture, just like in our culture, Latino culture. Church is very powerful. The Pope is a pope. That's a bad brother right there. I mean, you're the pope. I mean, my mom was waiting for that smoke. You know, my mother was waiting for that smoke to come out. Who's our next pope? Like it's gonna affect her life. You know, who is that? Because it does in her life. It affects her life, and I get that. I respect that. So the leadership has a big role to play in this. And if the leadership keeps telling our young brothers that you are hated, you're not liked, you are most likely to be attacked, you are most likely to be ridiculed, then even though I'm not experiencing, I'm going to think that. I'm going to carry your baggage because you keep telling me that, instead of saying, no, you are gifted, son. You don't understand. You are a specimen and you are intelligent, because once you get in the game, just like when you get in a game physically, guess what? You're equally as good psychologically and intelligently. But we can't lower this. What? Go ahead. What were you saying? We
still do that. Like I'm gonna speak for the sisters, the black women with the like we were talking about black sons, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what made me say this, because I felt how you were saying.
There are a percentage of individuals, like you said, that that are like talked down on, hey, you know, not this, you're not that, not in that way. However, you have mothers like myself who do build your children up to where it doesn't, it's not about color. You can be successful just like this man can be successful. You can have this, you can have this, you can conquer that. However, in addition to that, unfortunately, we also have to prepare our children in ways because of some of the stigmas and the stereotypes and the things that can occur, unfortunately. And I'm not talking about a different culture, but with black young men, like stereotypes, being pulled over, being saying that they're more aggressive looking, certain things that you prepare. It's almost like you have to prepare them for the real world. You know what I mean? You want them. Of course, you're gonna pour into them. I want you to be the president of the United States. Absolutely. However, if you get pulled over, you're gonna do X, Y, and Z, because I want to make sure you come home. Well, and finally, we have to have those conversations. We're not to that point.
Everybody does. Everybody does. But that's not the conversation. That's not the conversation that we hear on the news and on TV, right? Conversation, it stops. That whole sentence you said stops usually when it's because you're a black man. It doesn't say, that unfortunately people in authority sometimes abuse authority. That's a reality of life, right? You're going to have jobs where the boss at your McDonald's, the manager at your McDonald's might abuse their power as your manager, right? Your supervisor in the military may abuse their role as your supervisor in the military. Your boss, that law enforcement officer may abuse their law enforcement power. All levels of authority do that, and statistically, they do it more to the dominant. So statistically, and this is why I want to get into the numbers of it, but there are more white fatalities from law enforcement officer than any other culture. But granted, because there's more of them. So of course,
there's more of them. But if we do the percentage, from based off of the population, Black people are.
I don't know. We'll do it for another day. Let's look let's look for another day, because I know that the way I was treated, I didn't like it. Now I'm treated a lot better now because I'm in a different. So it's not as much of my culture as it's much. My wife taught me that I presented a certain attitude. She taught me that. I used to think they were doing it because I was Mexican, right? And then she helped me realize, no, it's how you're acting. You puff up, you get challenging, you don't respond to they're asking you to do something and you're challenging the whole time. She says, why are you so you're just not listening. You're just fighting them.
Where did that come from?
I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. All I know is I had a chip on my shoulder and I was anti-white as a kid. I grew up I was a racist. You know what I'm saying? I had an issue with it. And even though I would always come home and tell my parents, but you don't understand this country, blah, blah, blah. My dad would never allow me to feel like a minority. My mom never let me feel like that. They always shut it down immediately and says, focus on your behavior, your attitude, that kind of stuff. And so I was never allowed to play that victim role, which I wanted to play because it was real. I got called the N-word in Colorado, got put in a jail. And I was like, I'm not even black. They put me in the jail anyway. Because my friend was drinking. I wasn't even drinking. They put me in for his drinking, right? For the night. So I was bothered. Trust me, I was bothered. I've been left out in the middle of the desert and then had to walk home. That one, there's that time. Oh, there's another time where they put me in the car, turned up the heater, left the car running, just sat me in the heater in the back of the car, and I'm dying of the heat. No, I'm not saying I don't have my moments of abuse by white and black and Mexican cops, by the way, all three colors. All three types, but my parents never let me focus on that part of it. They always kind of brought it to me. And I'm not saying everybody that gets an issue with law enforcement is guilty of anything. I'm not saying that because, we're innocent to prove guilty for sure. And sometimes they make bad decisions. Sometimes people make the wrong choices. I'm just talking about me, but on me, the percentages have gone way down since I am who I am today. It still has happened. But there's also the times that it's happened where law enforcement officer helped change my tire. There's still those. Now I have some good stories now too as well. But I don't want to go too far off track. The point is that my parents didn't let me have their issues that they dealt with. It wasn't until the last 5 years where my parents are actually telling me the stories that they experienced in this country all those early years. I am now hearing the stories because they say now I can process that differently. And they didn't want to tell me those before because they knew how I was. And now, wow. Let me tell you what an eye-opener this has been for me. Seriously.
That's the fairy tale.
It's powerful. It's good parenting. What do you mean fairy tale?
That's because I'm telling you, we
fairy tale.
Yes, we do the same thing. If we did a poll and we asked, individuals to come, blacks, for example, there is a huge, and I don't want to say everyone because there's not everyone for everything, but we do the same parenting. The only piece that I'm speaking of in addition to is just the preparation of making sure that you are safe. And unfortunately, that is more than, hey, look both ways before you cross the road. You know what I mean?
That's everybody.
Right.
Don't you think we should teach everybody to keep both hands on the wheel?
In addition, though, we also have to say these other exclaimers, is it exclaimer? Yeah, exclaimers don't make up words.
Disclaimers.
Disclaimer. I told you I made
it. Yeah. That's all right.
And so I knew it wasn't right. But anyway, it sounded really smart. But yes, we do have to put those disclaimers in for our children. And sadly enough, some of them are geared towards the color of our skin. We aren't there yet.
I'm not, Jojo.
We're not there yet. I want to say, but we're not there yet.
Look, I'm not saying sometimes it's not. I'm just saying that's not. Generational trauma exists because we keep passing that down. And the reason I'm saying it is because in reality, everybody has their stories. I can go into that trailer park and they're going to have their stories.
No, I agree with that.
I can go into any neighborhood that's of a low economic status, and you're going to have stories, and they feel persecuted too. They feel attacked too because they don't have that. See, that is not just this country, by the way. Is anybody doing that American thing? It's every country.
It's
every country.
It's still different.
Everybody has their no. It's different to you because it's personal to you. What I'm saying is, I don't want to minimize yours, but I don't want mine minimized, and I don't want theirs minimized, and I don't want that person over theirs minimized. I think everybody has what they believe to be their reality from their perspective, from what they were raised, and we have to respect it. Because if we do that with color, we also do that with types of trauma. Oh, your trauma is not big enough because this is what happened to me. I can say, oh, I was sexually molested by a woman. And then, another guy goes, yeah, but that's not as bad as mine because I was sexually molested by a man. There's always like everybody's one-upping. No, stop. The pain is pain. And how we heal is how we heal. And we have to somehow figure this out to heal. Because if we don't, all we're doing is giving our luggage to the next kid and asking them to have it. And that's not right.
Happens. I can tell you this. Until that happens, I am still going to prepare the black boy for whatever could possibly happen to them. I am going to still lift them up.
So the white trailer park boy, he's treated better by the cop, is what you're saying?
I'm saying that.
So that biker, when a biker walks into an elevator, and there's an old lady in there, she's not terrified? I
don't know.
I'm just saying.
I'm not saying that she's not. I am not. I love that you're speaking.
I have to.
I'm a black mother. Remember, you asked me as a black.
Yes, ma'am. I did, and I want your perspective.
I still have the need, and that goes to children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren.
Right.
It's a change.
Yes,
that
ma'am.
I prepare my babies.
I agree.
Unfortunately, as far as we have come, we still have a far to go. And I'm going to prepare you for what you may experience. Right. Am I also I'm an example of, it doesn't matter the color of your skin, your success, and, certain things. I have, oh my gosh, I would tell you some of my best friends are, white or, different races. It's just, that's a reality, which goes to, remember last week, our last show, and I said, this right here, to me, if it happens, it's going to change the world, and it's going to take a rollout, right? But if we stop with you're white, you're Latino, you're all this stuff, right? These separations, we're separated from the beginning at birth. You know what I mean? And so if that birth certificate says American, then
it does.
Right. With color. White, American, black, you're white,
right,
you're black.
Right.
I mean, like, if we stop that.
Who's the we? If you don't do it, who is? No, you doing it. You said you do it right now.
Oh, I do.
Well, so then who's supposed to do it?
Application, it says that.
But when you point upwards, who are you talking about? Government?
I'm talking about whoever makes the rules about the birth certificates, them people. I'm not going to say a jacked up word, but you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Until that life statistics changes, we still going to be stuck in that bubble.
Healing isn't about blame, it's about freedom.
I agree.
Right? So we have to heal. Period. Because that is the important, and we cannot heal if we continue to focus on blame. Continue to focus on being angry. Continue to focus on how we're a victim. And that's all I'm saying. So if we're going to stop generational trauma, we have to heal ourselves so that we can better heal for our children. We have to better heal for them.
I don't think
because they don't come out wounded. They don't come out wounded. They come out playing with each other, having a good time. They don't know the difference. And then we start telling them, you got to watch that. Yeah. Oh, you know why you were treated like that? You were treated like that because of this. No, Mom, I did that. No. You were treated like that because of this. You know why they didn't invite you to the house? Because you're this. You know why they talked to you like that? Because you're this. You know why they thought you stole that? Because you're this. Because that's what I thought. I came home and told my parents all that. You know why they thought I stole that? Because I'm the Mexican in that room. There was 2 guys that got accused of stealing, Mom. I didn't even steal that Papermate pen from that Catholic school that I went to for 6 weeks. I lasted 6 weeks at that Catholic school. I told them they blamed me and a black kid. They didn't blame all the little white kids, and I didn't do it. They blamed me because I was Mexican. And my mom says, ridiculous. You probably stole it. And I didn't, by the way. But no, it's not different. The difference was I was the one saying it and my parents shut it down rather than being the other way around. Says, hey, the reason they accused you is because you're black. The reason they thought you did it is because you're black. If you keep telling them that, it's going to be harder to overcome. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that you don't give them reality, but we got to find the mix. We got to find the mix between the reality and the protection of how to protect yourselves. But we also have to find that other thing that John Lennon in you that says we got to get rid of the words. We got to get rid of that. So you got to find that mix between both. You know what I mean?
That's the example I gave you.
Amen.
The pouring into.
So I'm right then, and you're right.
We're both. I think.
And together we're, right. Together. We're perfect.
I don't doctor.
All right, we got to go. We got to kick it back to, because if not, they're gonna, I don't know, they got to do less commercials and stuff like that, because I don't want them to cut parts of the show off. So
big topic, we need to bring it back.
Well, we'll continue because we didn't get all the way through it. I mean, there was so much to talk about on this. We'll have to do a part 2 on this, but we got to kick it back to WOKB 1680 AM in the Central Florida area, or 100.7 FM. And of course, I got to thank, one of our main sponsors is Orange County Government. Actually has sponsored this show since 1999, by the way. Since 1999, Orange County Government has sponsored the Couch Live and all of its effort to help you, my people, be better mentally, better mental health, get off of drugs and alcohol, get into recovery, and just heal a little bit. We're not always going to agree, JoJo. We're not always going to agree.
No.
But the key is to have conversations about it.
That's the best
because
part.
That's how we heal. No matter what, we got to talk about it, right?
Absolutely.
And so anyway, we're gonna talk about it because on the next show I'm gonna ask you about leadership a little bit more. I was getting into it and we didn't get into it, and I want to ask you about leadership because I gotta still ask you about this. Yeah, because I just gotta ask you about Al Sharptons of the world. The Al Sharptons of the world that continue to be out there. I hear no love coming out of his mouth ever, and maybe you could shine some light on that and help me out a little bit. Thank you, Marissa, for I see Marissa's been saying some things, and I didn't get to go to that, but thank you, Marissa, from New York, watching us on Facebook Live and contributing. Any last words you got to say, JoJo? Anything?
Regardless of, the trauma that we have experienced, right? Regardless of your color, your race, we still do not have to be stuck in that box. We can rise above and reach and meet and exceed all of the goals that we want to, despite the color of our skin.
Amen. And I'm going to repeat, healing is about freedom. It's not about blame. Anyway, adios, amigos. It's time for a taco.